I now call Saloni of Evergreen Secondary School to conclude the case and summarize for the proposition.
Good afternoon, members of the House. First, I have a few tiers of contention to make. Marriage and parenthood should be together, as a report shows that 89% of married couples want to have children. Secondly, if today's generation does not want to get married, then how will we produce a new generation of people to replace us when we pass away? Now on to my substantives. Firstly, I will be talking about how we have to preserve our Singaporean identity, and secondly, on how we should strengthen the social institutions of the family unit, preserving our Singaporean identity. It is obvious that we, as Singaporeans, have a distinct heritage and culture. Singaporeans speak Singlish, which is our own unique way of speaking English, and it helps us communicate across races and age gaps. We have a diverse national cuisine which draws its influences from many different cultures. We even enjoy the same sports. In the long term, this heritage and identity is inevitably threatened if the citizen population continues to decrease. We will have to address this problem of falling fertility rates, or our Singaporean identity will be gradually eroded.
Madam.
No, thank you, ma'am. This is not to say that immigrants and foreigners are unwelcome. They are very much an integral part of our economy. But we have a unique identity and they have theirs. If our population of citizens keeps falling, we will have to outsource jobs to foreigners. This will inevitably change the fundamental nature.
Point, madam.
No, thank you, ma'am. Of the Singaporean experience. Most important of all is that we have to be self-sufficient. We cannot and should not rely on foreigners to continuously take up the economic slack for us. On to my next point, strengthening social institutions.
Hi, madam.
No, thank you, ma'am. A family unit is a social institution. We should give families financial and non-financial incentives to help them so that it will not be a struggle for them to survive. Moreover, in granting more financial incentives, the government does more than just pump in money. They throw in their moral support behind the family unit by providing financial and non-financial incentives. It is not just
information, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
If that is so, then why in the recent survey do people say that they require more emotional support in order to have encouragement to have more children?
But the government is already throwing in as much of their moral support as they can. How much more do you want? It is not just the money and benefits given, but also the act of giving, which also strengthens the family units. This shows that the government cares.
Madam,
Yes, ma'am.
no one's really answered our question on how we've already offered them this sum of money in the year 2004. How is offering a little sum more in the year 2008 going to actually increase the birth rates when we show you that it's been stagnant over the past 7 years?
In the past, there was limited success. But now if we put in more, we can prove, okay, as I was saying, in the past there was limited success. And now if we just put in more effort and more requisite resources, we can actually produce a better result. Ladies and gentlemen, the main points of contention were long-term sustainability in Singapore's economy and the efficiency of financial incentives, which were explained by my third speaker, and preserving the Singaporean identity and strengthening social institutions, which were explained by me. Both the teams fought over the fact that financial incentives are not effective in this time. However, we, the proposition, have already proved that there was limited success in the past, and if we just put in a bit more effort and the requisite resources, we can produce some better results. I would like to end off my speech by saying that on behalf of the proposition team, that please go with increasing more financial incentives for our families. Thank you.
So which is it? Is it time or is it money? Well, let's find out. And let's introduce the last speaker of today's debate, Natasha from CHRJ Topayo, to conclude the case and summarize for the opposition.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the House. So far, all the proposition has been telling us is how there are financial incentives. Oh, my apologies. So far, the proposition has not told us how these financial incentives would help singles and how these changes will affect singles as well. Now, before I move on to my substantive point, which is to show you that overall why the policy is objectionable and also how the clauses are disproportionate and don't deal with the concerns of the singles. First of all, I'd like to deal with some of the rebuttals. Now, the first proposition team said that giving cheaper weddings and honeymoons would help these singles, but we would help these people, but we say that this is not one of their top concerns and it's only a secondary concern. And we also cannot expect busy mothers to juggle school, work, and also raise a child.
Point, ma'am.
No, thank you, ma'am. Already studying takes up so much of time. What makes you think that throwing in some childcare services during work will help? They are not superwomen. They have priorities as well. And childcare services are already available at some workplaces, and these are funded. This is funded by the WOW Fund, which I'll talk about later. And after the child is 4 years old, what is the government going to do? Are they just going to forget about them and think about the next generation? They cannot do this. They need to think of a plan for after the child grows up. And you also said that that marriage and parenthood should be treated as one. But as my first speaker has already told you, the policy does not address marriage at all. And how would money help create a more talented pool, create a more talented generation? If you just give money until the child is 4, how is the child supposed to create a talent in that period of time? And also, even if these people wanted to get married, as you've said, some people want to get married, but research has shown that people are not acting upon what they think. So obviously, this package isn't working. No, thank you, ma'am. And also, as the second proposition team has said, preserving the Singapore culture. Now, this is obviously not encouraging people to have more children, as if more people were concerned about preserving the Singapore culture, they would be actually doing something about it, and we would not need this policy. Now, my first speaker has already told you how this policy is ineffective, as it doesn't deal with the concerns of those who are interested and those who are not. So now I'll show you how the clauses for singles compared to those for married couples are disproportionate. Now, the policy sees marriage as merely a stepping stone to parenthood, and as there are so many clauses affecting married couples, but ironically not on singles, which shows what the policy is truly concerned about. But this should not be the case. Looking at the policy, the government doesn't have the singles' concerns and benefits at heart, but only cares about increasing the birth rate for the gain of the economy. And not only that, the policy does not address how they will help singles find a suitable partner, but only focuses on compensating married couples with children, such as the baby bonus and maternity leave. And the only clause that affects the married population is the WOW Fund, which is used to promote a work-life balance by providing money for these companies.
Point, ma'am.
No, thank you, ma'am. And only a small $10 million is being pumped into this. Compared to the $1.6 billion being pumped into this whole policy itself. And the only clause that's really affecting singles is the merger of the Social Development Union and the Singapore Dating Service. They provide events for singles, and this merger would only bring a bigger pool of people together. But this is a very technical change, and since this clause has been created, it hasn't been changed, and it hasn't helped either, as the general marriage status has been going down and not up. And besides these two clauses I've told you, no other clauses affect these people. And this is the problem in the policy. Too much attention is being paid to parenthood and not to marriage. The policy fails to realize that these are two different stages in a person's life, and they should not be put under one category. Now, singles thinking about marriage would not be worrying about childcare services or maternity leave. They'll be looking out for what the policy has to say about widening their social network and also how they'll give more opportunities to find a suitable partner. These are the questions the policy does not answer. And therefore, the closing opposition rejects this policy to throw more monies at singles and couples without children. The policy rejects treating genuine concerns about socializing and career development as though they are thorns in the flesh of Singapore's economic growth and which can be solved by paying young people off. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's debate. The judges will now leave the room for exactly 5 minutes to deliberate and then come back with their decision.
Firstly, we would like to again thank the teams for putting out a very interesting debate. I think we were quite captivated by the different programs and initiatives that these people could think about, and we are very heartened to know that if all of you are going to come into government someday, then we have good policies coming forth. Specifically for the debate, though, I think just as some reflection on the debate, we felt that a lot of programs, a lot of ideas, a lot of statistics, a lot of things were thrown up, but it was left there. The teams that could advance their case were the ones that could link it back directly to how this, what is the implications of these programs on marriage and parenthood and in the financial incentives approach towards encouraging marriage and parenthood, for instance. So really, we saw a lot of ideas, a lot of things, but it was left hanging there. So you left us high and dry in that point. Other than that, I think there's a lot of exchange of ideas. Many good points came up, and it sort of died down as well. So I encourage you to listen to each other on the debate floor and engage each other in the points being raised, and don't clutch too much on what you have prepared. So that's just our general points. We'll leave Rohini to announce the...
The winner of this debate is the opening opposition team from Nanyang. Thank you for your enthusiastic participation in this first competition of ours, and we hope to be able to see you next year in this as well.